and begin Kabbalat Shabbat. I'm glad that we're out here together on the Ziering family field and enjoying the fact that the very same fresh air and sunshine that happens to feel so good is also the very same fresh air and sunshine that gives us permission to be a little bit closer together than we otherwise have been and would be. And I'll begin again with gratitude to everybody who worked so hard to make sure that this service could come together tonight. So thank you to people who put in small and big and medium-sized efforts to make sure that could happen. A couple of sacred caveats to this service, other than the obvious ones coming in, because this feels different already. The first is that we're going to begin with Kabbalat Shabbat, a quick word of Torah, and then Mariv together. And then we're going to leave. The second thing is that the volume of singing I reflected after last Kabbalat Shabbat. It's simultaneously too loud and it's too quiet. I acknowledge that. It's too quiet because I miss loud, cacophonous, harmonious, beautiful group singing. And it's going to be a while yet before we get back there. So one of the holy sacrifices that we make for being able to be so near each other is that we're going to hold our voices a little bit closer to our hearts and a little bit quieter behind our masks than usual. And you're going to hear me doing some vocal cues to remind you from time to time that we're just keeping it a little bit dimmer than we usually would, but with no less joy, I hope. So those are your reminders. We're going to start Kabbalat Shabbat on page 10, and more about this being a special Shabbat Nachamu in between Kabbalat Shabbat and Mariv. We start on page 10. We'll do the first and fourth paragraphs of Yedid Nefesh. Yedid Nefesh Avarachaman Mishohavtach Eritzonach Yarutzavtach Kmoaya Ishtachavei Buhadarach Ki Yeravlo Yedidutach Ninofetzuv Ve'chotam. Last part. Higalena Ufros Chaviv Alai Ein Sukat Shelomach Ta'ir Eretz Bikevodach Nagila V'nismechavach Maher Ha'uv Kivamoed V'choneini Kimeolam Yenenai nai 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 Yenenai nai 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 Yenenai nai 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 Yenenai nai nai Yenenai nai 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 Yenenai nai 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 Yenenai nai 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 Yenenai nai nai Yenenai nai 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 Yenenai nai 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 Yenenai nai 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 Yenenai nai nai Yenenai nai 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 Yene nai 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 nai. Yene nai 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 nai. Psalm 95, the first psalm of Kabbalat Shabbat. Page 11, we'll sing the first part to a Nava Tehillah tune, the last part to Nusach. First, Lechu Neranena. Let's be a little joyful. Lechu Neranena Ladonai Nariel Litzor Hishenu. Lechu Neranena Ladonai Nariel Litzor Hishenu. Nekadma Fana Bitoda Bizmirot Narielo. Nekadma Fana Bitoda Bizmirot Narielo. Lechuneranena Ladonai Naria Litzor Ishenu. Lechuneranena Ladonai Naria Litzor Ishenu. Nekadma Fana Bitoda Bizmirot Narielo. Nekadma Fana Bitoda Bizmirot Narielo. Yil Gadol Adonai Hu Melech Gadol Al Kol Elohim. Arbaim Shana Kut Vedor Amaram Tohei Levav Hem Lo Yedehu Derachai Asher Nishbati Ve'api Im Yivon El Menuchati Shir Ladonai Shir Chadash Shir Ladonai Kolarit Shir Ladonai Berach Kushim Beser Human. Seven lines from the bottom of page 14. Yiramayam lo, Yiramayam lo, Yiramayam lo, Yiramayam lo. Yiramayam lo, Yiramayam lo, Yiramayam lo, Yiramayam lo. Yismechu Hashamayim Ritagel Haaretz. You can still sing small with joy. Yismechu Hashamayim Ritagel Haaretz. Yiramayam lo, 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 Yiramayam lo. Yismechu Hashamayim V'tagel haaretz. Yismechu Hashamayim V'tagel haaretz. Yalos שדי וכל אשר בו. אז ירננו כל התייר לפני אדוני קיווה לשפוט הארץ. ישפוט תבל בצדק וימים באמונתו. We're on page 15. אדוני מלך תגל הארץ, ישמחו איים רבים נענם ברפס. Orzaru ala tzadik ulish leiv simcha simchu tzadikim b'Adonai vehodu l'zecher kodsho. Page 17. Mizmor shir l'Adonai shir chadash hiniflo tasahu shir Elohim yino huzro hakodsho. לפני אדוני קיווה לשפוט הארץ, ישפוט תבל בצדק לימים במישרים. page 19. אדוני מלך ירגזו עמים, יושב קרובים תנות הארץ. אדוני בציון גדול ורמהו על כל העמים. ידעו שמך גדול ונורא, קדוש הוא ועוז מלך. רוממו אדוני אלוהינו וישתחוו להר קודשו. רוממו אדוני אלוהינו וישתחוו להר קודשו. כי קדוש אדוני אלוהינו רוממו. כי קדוש אדוני אלוהינו רוממו. You're invited to rise. We're on page 21. מזמור לדוד, הבו לאדוני ונליב, הבו לאדוני כבוד ועוזי, הבו לאדוני כבוד שמו, ישתחוו לאדוני בהדרת קודש. כל אדוני עול המים, אל הכבוד ירים. אדוני על מים רבים, כל אדוני בכוח חיי. כל אדוני בהדר, כל אדוני שובר ארצים, וישבר אדוני יזר זהבנון, וירקידם כמו עגל לבנון. וסיריון כמו ורמים. כל אדוני רוצה לעבוד איש, כל אדוני יחיל מדבר, יחיל אדוני מדבר קדש, כל אדוני יכול לעלות, ויחצוב יהרות והחלום כולם נרכבות אדוני לא מבול ישב וישב אדוני מלך לעולם אדוני עוז לי המויטין אדוני יברך את עמו בשלום ידידי די 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 ידידי די 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 ידידי די 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 ידידי די 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 די. You can be seated from page 22. Hana b'choach gedulati mincha tatir tzerura tatir tzerura kabel rinat zamicha sagivenu toreinu nora hana v'choach gedulati mincha tatir tzerura tatir tzerura kabel rinat amcha sagivenu toreinu nora Nagi por dor sheychut chakevat shomreim harikmash. The Chadodi begins on page 23. Lecha dodi likrat kala yedidai 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 ne Shabbat nekabelai lecha dodi likrat kala yedidai 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 ne Shabbat nekabela ay shamar v'sachor v'dibor echad Hishmihanu El HaMeyuchad ay Adonai Echad U'Shemo Echad L'Shem Tiferet Ve'Litila Lecha Dodi Likra Kala Yedidai 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 Ne Shabbat Ne Kabela Lecha Dodi Likra Kala Yedidai 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 Ne Shabbat Nekabela ay likrat Shabbat lechuvenecha hi mekor haberach ay merash mikedem nesucha sof maase b'machshava techila lecha dodi likrat kala yedidai 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 ne Shabbat nekabela ay Lecha dodi likrat kala yedidai 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 ne Shabbat nekabela ay mikdash melech ir melucha kumitzaim mitoch afechai ay rav lach shevet v'yemnek habacha ve'hu יחמול עלייך לך דודי לקראת כלה ידידיי 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 לשבת נקבל לך דודי לקראת כלה ידידיי 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 לשבת נקבל התנערי יפרקוני Vishivite, Jifartechami, Benishai, Betalachmi, Korvahem, Nashike Allah, Lechadodili, Katkala, Yadidai, 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 Neshabat, Nekabela, Lechadodili, Katkala, Yadidai, 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 Neshabat, Nekabela, hitoreri, kiva hore, kumiori, uri, shiraveri, kevod Adonai, alaich nikra, lechatodili, kratkala, yadidai, 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 neshavat, nekapela, Lechadodili krakala yadidai 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 neshabat nekavela lo tevoshi velo tikami ma tishtochachi umatemi bach yachesu ani ami venivnetai ratila Lechadodili kratkala yadidai 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 neshabat nekabela Lechadodili kratkala yadidai 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 neshabat nekabela vehayulim shisa shosayich verachaku kol nevalaich yasis alaich Elohim kimsos chatan akala lechadodili katkala yedidai 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 fnei shavat nekavela lechadodili katkala yedidai 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 fnei shavat nekavela. I had a fly in my mask. Hang on. New experiences. Perfect timing, though. Page 25, second to last paragraph. Yaminu small tifroti ve'et Adonai sharitzi ali hadish ve'in parti ve'nismecha ve'nagila olecha dodi likrat kala p'nei Shabbat nekam bela olecha dodi likrat kala p'nei Shabbat nikabela. If you're not standing already, I invite you to rise and face the west. Ro'i v'shalom ateret bala gam besimcha uvitzolom gula voichala voichala oh elechai dozi likrat kala Tinei Shabbat Nekavela Olechai Dozi Likrait Kala Tinei Shabbat Nikavila. When you're ready, take a seat. Turn in your books to page 27 for the Psalm for Shabbat. Mizmor shir liyom haShabbat. Toledat l'Adonai Hamzamei l'Shemchai. Odin huvum beseva deshenim ve'ranani ulehagid ki yashar Adonai tzuri v'lo avla tabo. Page 29. Adonai malach geut lavei. Edotecha ne'emnu meyot leveitecha nava kodesh Adonai leorech yamim Adonai leorech yamim. Mourner's Kaddish is on page 30. Yit gadal v'yit kadash shemei rabba. Be'alma divara kirete v'yamlich malchute. V'chayechon uvyomechon uvchaye dechol beit Yisrael. Ba'agala uvizman kari v'imru amen. Yehi shemei rabba mevarach le'alam ulamei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh. V'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemeh dekudsha v'rechu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tush v'chata v'nechamata damiram be'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mramav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Tomorrow will begin exactly at my 7th year at Temple Beth Am, which is remarkable on a lot of fronts. I'm not going to talk about that or wax poetic about that. Done some reflective writing about that this week because it's a big milestone. But there is a Jewish measure in years, in 7 years, that I do want to use as a springboard to what I want to talk about briefly in this zone between Kabbalat Shabbat and Mariv, which is the idea of a Shemitah year, a year in which the land is biblically commanded to rest, that is the land of Israel, And though we're not in a Parsha appropriate zone or a time of the year, or even a Shemitah year to be particularly talking about Shemitah as an idea, I do want to go to the idea tonight, just for a few minutes, of what it's like to be in the uncomfortable zone of lawlessness and boundlessness, which Shemitah represents. That's not to say that my 7th year at Temple Beth Am is going to be lawless, but it is starting to feel a little bit boundless. And I thought about that boundlessness a little bit earlier this week as I was learning from a dear friend of mine who I met back at Ramah, Wisconsin in the summer of 2010, and I've been close with ever since. Her name is Sarah Mulhern. She's a rabbi, and she works as the coordinator of the educators with the Shalom Hartman Institute of North America. And I'm a part of a Los Angeles cohort learning under the banner of the idea of power in 2020. We had a retreat just before all of this began, about 5 months ago, and we've continued our learning digitally. This week, Sarah brought us in our learning online, Rabbi Mulhern brought us in our learning online to the story of the spies. Again, not where we are in the Parsha, but you'll forgive me. I forgave her. We forgave her. And she spoke about the idea of Yehoshua and Caleb, Joshua and Caleb, along with Moshe and Aharon, and the exceptionalism of their attitude toward the boundlessness of the Midbar, of the wilderness. She spoke about a lot more than that, but I'm only going to take a couple minutes of your time and our time tonight, so we're going to focus on that. And she brought a commentary from Saloniki from the 15th century, from the Akedat Yitzchak, who I happen to like a lot in the way that he both organizes and gives his commentaries. He commented on the positive, optimistic, forward advancing reports of Yehoshua and Caleb, who indeed, like Moshe and Aaron, wanted to advance the Israelites' wanderings towards the Aretz, towards the land. They wanted to go up and conquer it. And I'll share with you his commentary on this idea, the Akedat Yitzchak, on their positive reports. I'll share it with you in the English mostly. And they were satisfied, Yehoshua and Caleb. They wanted to ascend, meaning they wanted to go up to the land. They wanted to make aliyah in order to bask in the divine light. They said, let us go up and we'll conquer it, for we're able to do so. They had a different spirit that sought to follow God and to reject the promiscuous and unbounded life, and to choose a life of the limits of Torah and this land, to go and inherit the land of life. They were part of the group that wanted to reject, in his words in Hebrew, v'havilti mugbalim. They rejected the boundless and promiscuous life. In other words, they did the thing that we talk about every year. They were on the path that we talk about every year at Pesach and Shavuot. I'm sure you've heard this Torah before. They wanted to go from the slavery of Egypt, that they being Moshe and Aharon, they being Yoshua and Caleb. They wanted to go from being bound up in slavery in Egypt to being bound up in God's laws, in the laws of Torah, as we received the Torah at Sinai, right? They wanted to go from being bound to being bound. And the Midbar, the wilderness, is boundless. And this sits with me in a really interesting place right now, because I feel deep in the Midbar of this season. We are in a radically boundless era of Judaism. This is very strange territory that we're in. The new things that I've done, the new things that you've done, the new things we've done as an institution, the things we've tried as Jews in the past few months, the way our Seders looked, the way our Shavuot looked, the new art and music that's come out of the season, that's going to come out of this season, the things that are going to come out of this are going to be at least as interesting as the Torah that came out of that season. And to leap to the Torah that I want to share with you tonight, here we are, Shabbat Nachamu. We've come from 3 weeks of admonition, 3 weeks of thinking about the destruction of the temples, and now here we are, Shabbat Nachamu, Shabbat of Nechemta, a Shabbat of comfort. But where is that comfort finding us? Meaning, if we locate ourselves in the historical story on that Shabbat of comfort, the comfort is finding us in the Galut. The comfort is finding us in the exile, right? We didn't have to wait all the way until we got back to our land to get comfort. The comfort came to us already in the exile, immediately. God was already there, comforting us, with us, all along, even from the moment that we left the land. And so I see the challenge. I see the challenge in the empty space in this text, and I see the challenge in the boundlessness of the Midbar, and I see the challenge in the year of Shemitah, and I see the challenge in the Galut. What can be made of the boundless space? All the while, though, in pursuit of the Aliyah. The point is not just to wander boundlessly. We are aiming for Hashivenu Adonai v'nashuva, right? We are aiming for the return to something that we know will look different. But there is holiness and magic and the accompaniment of the divine in this wandering space and what can be created in this interim. And you know what was created in the interim? This. All of Judaism was created in the exile. From the moment Shabbat Nachamu starts in the story, from the moment we were out of the temple, this, what we are doing now, this Judaism, began. I find that to be a beautiful challenge. What begins now? What are we a part of? There are some holy sparks here, all in the pursuit of the return, but done in the wandering and in the accompaniment of the divine. Let's turn to Mariv now. I invite you to rise because we have the blessing of being in a minyan. We're going to turn to page 39A. After the Baruch Hu, you can be seated. If you'd like to orient yourself east, it's that way. Baruch Hu et Adonai hamevorach. Baruch Adonai hamevorach leolam va'ed. Baruch et Adonai hamevorach leolam va'ed. El Chai v'Kayam tamidim l'cholenu le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai amari v'ravim. On page 40. V'ahavatcha al tasir mimim le'olamim. Baruch atah Adonai ohev amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Adonai Elohim Emet. On page 43, we'll come together at the top of 44. Adonai kozot v'kayam aleinu ki hu Adonai Eloheinu. Umalchut beratzon kibalu haleihem Moshe u'bnei Yisrael lechanu shira b'simcha rabah v'yameru hulam. Michamocha beilim Adonai, Mikamocha nedar b'kodesh norati lo tosefele. Malchutecha ra'u uvanecha pokeyam lifnei Moshe zehili anu v'yamru Adonai himloch leolam va'ed. V'nehemar kifad Adonai et Yaakov u'galo mi'ad chazak mimeinu Baruch atah Adonai gal Yisrael. 45. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom. Ushmor tzeiteinu v'oinu l'chaim u'shalom yatah v'yad olam ufros aleinu sukat shalom hecha baruch atah Adonai haparas sukat shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael ve'yah Yerushalayim. You're invited to rise. We're at the top of 46. V'sham miru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'torotam berit olam ay beini uvein b'nei Yisrael oti le'olam yishayit yamim asa Adonai et hashamayim ve'et ha'aretz uvayom ha'shevi Shabbat vayinafash Yitzkadah ve'yitzkadash mirapa V'yamadi v'hal kiriti v'yam lich malchutei v'chayechon v'yam hechon u'chayidech u'beit Yisrael L'kalav v'zman kariv v'yimeru Amen Yehi shemei rabba mevarach Ve'halam ulam ve'ham haya Yitbarach ve'yishtabach v'yipar v'yishon hamid naseh v'yitadar v'yitalei v'yitalal shemitei kodesha berichu leila min kol berchata ve'shirata tushvechata v'nechamata tamiram be'ham v'yimru Amen. The whispered private Amidah for Shabbat evening begins on page 47. If you haven't yet completed your own private Amidah, please continue at your own pace. If you're comfortable with it, you can remain standing. I'm on page 53 for the Me'ain Sheva. ויחולו השמיים וארץ וכל צבאם, ויכל אלוהים ביום השביעי מלאכתו אשר עשה, וישבות ביום השביעי מלאכו מלאכתו אשר עשה. ויברך אלוהים את יום השביעי ויקדש אותו, כי בו שבה בכל מלאכתו אשר ברא אלוהים לעשות. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו, אלוהי אברהם אלוהי יצחק ואלוהי יעקב, אלוהי שרה, אלוהי רבקה, אלוהי רחב אלוהי לאה, אל הגדול הגיבור והנורא אל עליון, קונה שמיים וארץ, מגן עפר בדברו, מחיים איתי ממערו, אל הקדוש שאין כמוהו. המניח לעמו ביום שבת קודשו, כי בם רצה להניח להם, לפניו נעבוד ברעב ופחד, ונדע לשמו בכל יום תמיד, מהון הברכות. אלוהות אדון השלום, מקדש השבת ומברך שביעי, מניח בקדושה להעמיד ושני עונג, זכר למעשה בראשית. אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו, רצי במנוחתנו, קדשנו במצוותיך, ותן חלקנו בתורתך. שבינו מטובך, ושמחנו בישועתך, וטהר ליבנו לעבדך באמת. ונכילנו אדוני אלוהינו באהבה ורצון, שבת קודשך בינוך ובך ישראל מקדשי שמך. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת. יתקדש ויקדש שמי רבה, בהמד יברך ירתה וימליך מלכותי. בחייכון ובמכון וחיי לכל בית ישראל, בגלה בזמן קריב ויאמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה בברך, להלם ולעולמי המיה. יברך וישבח ויפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי לקודשה בריחו. לעילם מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תשבחתה ונחמתה דמירם בימה ויאמרו אמן. תתקבל צדקנו דון כל ישראל, קדם והוני וישמעיה ויאמרו אמן. והשלמה רבה מן שמיה, וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ויאמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו ויעשה שלום עלינו, ועל כל ישראל ויאמרו Amen. Kiddush is on page 55. Savri, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hakafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddeshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu. V'shabbat kodsho b'yahava u'ratzon yichilanu zikaron l'maaseh v'reishit. Hu yom techila l'mikrei kodesh zecher l'tzihat Mitzrayim. Yivhanu v'charta v'yotanu kidashta mikol hamim. V'shabbat kodshecha b'yahava u'ratzon hinchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai mikadesh haShabbat. You're invited to remain standing or rise. Aleinu is on page 56. Aleinu l'shabehach l'adon hakol l'teikid u'la'li yotzer b'reshit shalos. Hakatuv b'toratecha Adonai himloch le'olam va'ed. V'ne'emar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz. Vayom hahu yihei Adonai echad. U'shemo echad. Mourner's Kaddish is on page 58. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah. Mi'alma divarach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei. בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב, ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך לעולם ולעולמי עלמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה ברכו. לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דמירם בעלמה ואמרו אמן. יהי שלמה רבה מן שמיה, וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו amen. Thank you to each of you for being here this evening. I'm going to give a couple of instructions in a minute for leaving. We're going to leave on this note because, again, there are miniature sacrifices in each piece that we do, but Yigdal's a little bit extra, and I would rather literally save that breath and save that song for that next thing that we do. So I promise to play us out with a little bit of extra drum as you go. And we'll leave on the notes that we've had together already this evening. But first, a few announcements about the rest of the opportunities that you have to join both during the rest of the Shabbat digitally and then after Shabbat as well. So tomorrow morning at 10 in the morning, you can join our Shabbat morning services either by Zoom or by live stream. If you registered ahead of time, then you can join by the Zoom. There was the registration link up. Same link goes to the live stream. If you'd like to join that, a little teaser is that our new rabbinic intern, Rachel Cohn, is going to be giving a drash with Rabbi Schatz offering a little bit of a response at the end, but really it's Rachel Cohn's first opportunity drashing here. So I invite you to come and hear that tomorrow morning. And tomorrow evening about 7:45, there's Mincha Sudash Sheet learning. You can eat in your own houses while Rabbi Kligfeld teaches and leads us out in Mariv. And then Rabbi Schatz and I will do Zoom into Havdalah after Shabbat as well. I think that's it. And what I'll ask is, as you leave here, please, I'll ask that the Peretzes and Jackie and the Abels will leave first, and please make space for each other as you leave here, and don't linger too much, at least don't linger too close to each other. And as you leave, please place your books back on the cart that you took them off of, so that people can safely take them off and sanitize. So I will quietly sing you out as you head out of here with a little Yigdal Nigun or something of the sort with some drums, and I wish you a Shabbat Shalom, and thanks for being out here tonight. Shabbat Shalom. Yay, nay, 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 yay, 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 nay, 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 yay, nay, 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 yay, nay, 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 yay, nay, 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 nay. And nine and nine 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 and nine 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 and nine and nine 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 and nine 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 and nine 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 and nine 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 nine.